Hello, this is Jeff Hamrick again at the University of San Francisco's Analytics program. I'm going to show you very quickly how to make a line plot for a time series in R. This is the natural way to visualize time series, so it's something we should definitely know how to do. Let me first import my data set into R. This data set is a little bit different than the data sets we usually work with. It does have a header, but its separator is not a comma, even though it's a CSV file. Its separator is a semicolon because it's a quote-unquote European CSV file. The reason the elements of the cases are separated, that is, the variables for the cases are separated by a semicolon, is because commas have been reserved to hold decimal places. Europeans use commas sometimes instead of periods to denote the decimal place. So I'm going to go on and point this at this data set. TUI is the name of a European company. This is stock price information for that particular company. And so let's take a quick look at this data set. If I want to look at, let's say, the first three cases of this thing, I see that I've got 6 columns here, fairly standard set of stock price information, open, high, low, close, some volume information and dates. Probably what I'm interested in is the closing price. So what I'll do is just create a plot of the 5th column of my data, and this is the default option that you get. Each price is represented by a kind of silly looking dot, and the X and Y axes are perhaps not exactly how we would label them. There's no title on this graph, but this is a fine start. So the first augmentation you can make, that you may want to make to your plot, is to draw lines between the dots. So the way you do this in R is you set type to be equal to L, and then you can replace the individual dots with small piecewise linear segments connecting the dots instead. You can also change the thickness of the plots with this option LWD, so that makes the line thicker. You can add color if you like. For example, if I would like the plot to be red instead, I can use an option like this one. If we want to label the X and Y axes, we can use, as we always have been using, these commands like X label and Y label. Closing prices. There we go. And now it's looking a little bit better. I might want to do a couple of additional things, like slightly change the scaling of the y-axis and add a main title. Like I might want to title this TUI AG, and then I might want the range of my y-axis to be, let's say, from 0 to 60. So I'll enter a vector there to control the range of the y-axis. And the reason I might want to do this is because 0 has a particular interpretation with stock prices. Maybe the origin should be included in this time series plot, but there you go. There's a time series plot in R. It's important to note for time series analysis that R is very willing to receive in a plot command operators like diff and logarithm. So for example, if I didn't want to look at the prices, but I wanted to look at the logarithmic returns instead, I could simply step in here and put a couple of wrappers around my data. So for example, I could step back here and first take the logarithm of the closing prices, and then take the differences of the logarithms, which, as you guys know, is just the logarithm of the quotient, and that's by definition the logarithmic return. And then I think our y-axis range will no longer be appropriate. I think we need to change it to let's say -5 to 5 instead. Perhaps I should multiply this by 100 if I wanted to have that range. So if I do this instead, I get a time series plot that includes the returns. -5 to 5 isn't a great choice here. TUI AG has some days that it does better and worse. So maybe instead I should have chosen something like -10 to 10. But you can play with it a little bit and get a time series plot of the returns as well. I'm not sure that it's particularly sensible to connect the daily logarithmic returns with line segments, but nonetheless, that's kind of an artistic choice. that we can leave up to you. So that is all for my discussion about how you build a line plot in R. Thanks for listening.